Sheil got lifted on September the 11th, 2002.
What do you want to know? The police, I'm not a big fan of the police. The police aren't a big fan of me.
Beforehand, I'd seen being a bit naughty, and they had this stencil which said "I love MY" with a picture of a plane going at it.
There was a guy, there was a total Ned running around threatening to stab some of the younger guys.
Some kid with a knife at the square, a knife or a metal bar or something.
There's this JK that was walking around with a Stanley knife.
And just causing a bit of aggro, and he wouldn't leave the square, and then some of his mates turned up.
Niven, he called the police. I don't know if it was a 999 call or not.
And the guy had already left at this point, so instead of kind of dealing with that, the police started hassling the skaters and demanding to know who made the call because they were wasting police time. And slowly the police went round at each of the skaters and kind of hassled them. And then eventually they got to me, and I wasn't really in any mood. Something sort of happened outside of the square. It turned out that this kid that had come up threatening people had actually been up looking for one of the down and outs that sort of hung out at the square.
These other younger JKs came in the square and overheard him saying, "He stabbed my ma."
He was dating the guy's mum and had done something, so he was up to kind of stab him. And the guy turned up at the square as the police were hassling me, and the police had their back to it.
A fight broke out in the square. Sheil was standing there as well.
The kid went up to the guy and just decked him, just floored him and then legged it. I was kind of like, do you want to actually do your job? Because something shit's going down behind you.
Sheil was next to it because the police were talking to him and other skateboarders.
And the police turned round and, you know, legged it over, saw the guy on the ground. The guy obviously wasn't going to press charges, wasn't telling the police anything.
We were like, just let the two JKs go, and they decided to take Sheil.
All the skaters were like running all over the place because they saw the guy run off. I got very lippy. I was basically telling the police to go and do their job, and the police sort of thought that they'd huckle me down to the station and ask me more questions. I refused to go.
Sheil wasn't giving up for a fight, and he ran round the square in circles a few times with the cops chasing him.
One of the police came into physical contact with Sheil, and Sheil went fucking nuts. Started running about, screaming about police harassment and police abuse.
They started sort of chasing me because I wouldn't let them touch me, and then I ended up sort of running around the square with one of the policemen chasing me, and he couldn't catch up me. And then, you know, I sort of ran out of the square, and it got to a point where I was just like, I just let him catch me. He wasn't very happy. He sort of did the rough handling, and by this point all the skaters had sort of swarmed around him. And the police decided they wanted to haul me into the police car, so I was grabbed and they tried to frog march me. I resisted. There's then ensued another sort of bout of running around the square with the policeman chasing me. I had a bag and stuff like that, so I couldn't just leg it. Police huckled me, took me to the car.
They took him into the police car, which was sat up at the bus stop across from the Goshen's.
The mind all the kids were standing around going, "Fuck the pigs!" We were standing going, "Rodney King! Rodney King! Rodney King! Rodney King! Rodney King!"
They kept him in there for ages, and there was about 20 or 30 of us.
All the skaters swarmed around the car and they couldn't drive off or anything.
And we all kind of surrounded this car, surrounded the police car, so that they couldn't drive away with him in the back of the car. And we were like that for ages and ages and ages. And
then they started chanting, and then this car started shaking, and the police, one policeman was a bit kind of shocked at what was going on and kind of just wanted to kind of leave the whole thing, but the other guy was really fired up, the guy who was chasing me. I think his pride had been hurt and wanted me to take me down to the station and everything. But the other guy was kind of just not into it, kind of thing. So basically they just threatened me, made a lot of kind of points about they had to figure out who made the call and all this kind of, and because none of the skaters were moving and because they were getting even more rowdy, the car was shaking, the police just let me go.
And after 5 minutes of bad words in the back of the car with Sheil and the two cops, they let Sheil go. And they just walked out and that was it. They drove off.
So quite a surreal experience. I guess I could probably say I was quite lucky I didn't get huckled and charged with some made up charge, but also kind of a big nod to all the skaters who were there on the day. You know, you stood up for one of your own kind of thing, and it was really cool.